Hey, welcome back. It's Mark Simone here for Sean Hannity. With us right now, Ann Coulter, the great best-selling author, columnist. You know, everybody's going to write a Trump book now, but she's got the book. It's called In Trump We Trust. It's already a big bestseller. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to AnnCoulter.com. You can get it there. You can get a column there. Ann Coulter, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are you, Mark Simone?
Well, good. I don't know how you can be fantastic when our democracy has been threatened by this Russian hacking. They hacked the whole election.
And by a man called Donald J. Trump.
I think
literally Hitler.
So, when they say the election was hacked, what does that mean? How could you?
It means we found out the truth about the Democrats.
Oh, well, but
it's interesting how they never do. They never contest the content of the WikiLeaks, but that's what it's about. That we found out. You know, for example, some of the things Hillary said about saying one thing to Goldman Sachs bankers and another to the public, and Donna Brazile giving her questions to debate questions. Oh, and how the Clintons were conspiring with the DNC, which is supposed to be neutral. It actually, neither the RNC or the DNC were neutral in this year's election. It shows you how furious the American public is with both political parties and official Washington, that Bernie Sanders, sort of nut socialist from Vermont, nearly beat the Clinton machine and the DNC, but that's part of what came out in the WikiLeaks. Yeah. And also, Trump did beat 17 competitors.
You know, the only rock-solid evidence of tampering was Debbie Wasserman Schultz. We know for a fact she rigged the primaries. If not for her, who knows? They might have had a really strong candidate, and they might have won.
Funny you say that. I was just talking to someone about this last night. I mean, you can't rerun history. I don't think anybody could have beaten Trump. He is the first presidential candidate in all of U.S. history, the only presidential candidate, and the only presidential candidate who would say that he would build a wall on the border. He's the only presidential candidate who did or would say he would impose a Muslim ban. He's the only presidential candidate who in a million years would say he will deport illegal aliens. And he won in a landslide. As I think we see what the American people were thinking about when you look at what's going on right now in Western Europe. I mean, besides San Bernardino, Boston Marathon, the gay nightclub, 9/11. I think everyone remembers that. At the time, that Muslim ban announced 1 year ago on my birthday, best birthday gift ever, Trump was denounced hysterically. I mean, that was when the Hitler stuff really started in earnest. He was denounced by Reince Priebus, who's now picking Trump's cabinet for him. So you can't imagine how happy I am about that. Reince Priebus, Mitch McConnell, all of his competitors, Marco Rubio, of course, Paul Ryan, denounced high and low, and as polls showed, even in the states where Trump was losing the primaries, like Wisconsin and Texas, overwhelming majorities of Republican primary voters told pollsters they supported the Muslim ban. And when you see that 70% of Republican primary voters, you can say that's just Republicans, but that's 70% who were willing to tell pollsters that they agreed with a position that had been called Hitlerian across the land.
Yeah, everybody's been called Hitler. Except Hitler. That's the only one they don't call Hitler anymore.
Right, and certainly not Stalin.
Yeah. You want to write
that piker only killed, 6 times as many people as Hitler? It's so weird how Stalin has just been whitewashed out of history, and 1,000 years from now, the only evil person who will have ever lived is Adolf Hitler.
You know, everybody should read this book, In Trump We Trust, and you were writing this all along during the campaign. And let's say somebody had Trump's blueprint and started out like that. It was also, he's like you, he doesn't back down. You know, when it was the John McCain joke or it was the comment about the Gold Star parents, he never backed down. I imagine everybody was yelling at him, you've got to apologize tonight. Stuck to his guns, and look how it paid off.
Yes, look how it paid off. Although Michelle Obama does say we've entered a period of hopelessness. The good news is the hopelessness ends on January 20th.
Yeah, so January 21st is a Saturday. It's inaugural.
Oh, it's the 21st?
Well, no, the Friday is the inauguration.
Yeah.
The parade, the ceremony. I guarantee you, he shows up for work Saturday morning, day after the inauguration, starts signing executive orders, starts undoing the old executive orders. I think by Saturday at 5 p.m., a lot will have gotten done.
I agree, and a lot can be done by executive order. I was always sort of annoyed at the idea that there's anything wrong with executive orders per se. No, he's the executive, if it's within his constitutional authority. And one of the things that was interesting about Trump, either because he's an executive or he is, as I think it's worth considering at this point, even shrewder than most people realize, is that most of what he talked about doing, the most important promises he made to the American public are already 100% within the authority of the executive branch, of the President of the United States. The Muslim ban, for example. There's a law on the books stating that the President of the United States may exclude any class of aliens whom he deems detrimental to the interests of the United States. It's already the Commander-in-Chief's duty to protect the borders, to defend the borders, and the Department of Defense's duty to build a wall if necessary. The Department of Defense, the military has built walls, turrets, cannons. Department of Defense, that word defense, does not refer to the defense of the little Syrian girl or the defense of Ukraine's borders or Crimea. It refers to the defense of the United States of America. Deporting illegal aliens. Any illegal aliens, they're illegal. All of this is within his authority. So we are finally going to have a president issuing executive orders that are not only constitutional and his constitutional duty to do, but that will allow him to fulfill the great majority of his most important promises to the American public.
Yeah, and this law has been used. Remember the Iranian hostage crisis? Jimmy Carter banned Iranians. He ordered the deportation of all the Iranian students. It's been used many times.
Oh, yeah, it's been used many times. Well, remember, I think it was in the 70s, Senator Lautenberg had a law expressly allowing Russian Jews to immigrate here. And, Russian Christians weren't very happy about it, but the idea was that Russian Jews were being persecuted. Well, that was discrimination against Christians.
Yeah. When you read all these comments about his foreign policy, his choices for ambassador, and he's going to start a war, he's going to blow up the whole world, he's got to listen to all the State Department people, he's got to consult them on everything. It does sound ridiculous, doesn't it?
Well, particularly with Trump, since part of his appeal was that, the Bolsheviks seized power in part because they promised the Russian people no more war. America is tired of war. I was the biggest supporter of the Iraq war there was out there, but enough already. It didn't work. It's worse than it was than when we went in, but mostly, how about a little me time for America? Americans have really been suffering, and both political parties are wild to go to war. It's just madness. As someone who's written a lot about the Cold War, Joe McCarthy, Algiers, the whole 9 yards. It's just amazing to me that the left, the New York Times, they were fine with Russia back during the gulags, during Stalin's show trials, when Russians were killing Americans in Vietnam. No, it's when they won't let a gay rights parade march down Moscow Square. Suddenly, they're the enemy. Now we've got to go to war with Russia. They're sounding like modern-day John Birchers, and there's no Soviet Union anymore.
Yeah, well, they did hack the whole election. You got to.
I'm so glad the Democrats are being self-reflective and really figuring out what they did wrong.
Yeah. Hey, all these snowflakes, on the college campuses, and all these Democrats whining and crying, and their grief counselors, and you notice the difference between them and the billionaires, like Jeff Bezos. He shows up at Trump Tower last week for a meeting, says he's excited to be there. Carlos Slim went to dinner last night with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. One thing about these billionaires, they don't whine, they don't cry, they adapt to whatever happens and make the best of it.
You're more enthusiastic about all this than I am. I'd say they attempt to co-opt. And depending on what happens, let's just hope they're not successful.
Yeah. What do you think the Clintons are going to do? Bill Clinton can keep himself busy, if you know what I mean. But Hillary Clinton has nothing to go back to, no private life. She's not going to sit on the couch and watch TV for the rest of her life. What do you think she's plotting?
Well, a normal person could find plenty of things to do, but for people who enjoy bossing other people around and controlling our lives and imposing ridiculous feminist rules and regulations, yes, it will be tough. I can't tell you how I feel her pain, Mark.
She's made a little noise in the last few days about running in 2020. Is that even possible?
Oh, that's fantastic. No, I don't. The Democrats are behaving after this election exactly the way the Republicans did after 2012. I'm not going to gloat forever. I've set a limit of 3 years, but I will say, don't get don't get too cocky, Republicans. The pendulum swings, and you read these exact same headlines about the Republicans in 2008.
Yeah.
And again in 2012. It's the end of the Republican Party. The pendulum swings, but it's interesting that you see the exact same thing that happened after 2012. Remember, the RNC, led by Reince Priebus, who is apparently picking Trump's cabinet for him.
No, he's not picking the cabinet.
Yeah, other than one person, Sessions, and I like Tillerson, and that's about the end of the list of the cabinet appointees.
There's a lot of good people.
No, those are the only two that would not have been picked by Jeb! Exclamation point.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot.
Tell me which one would not have been picked by Jeb! Exclamation
I forgot the exclamation point. You remember that? Jeb! Exclamation point.
I've got to do an end of the year review of my favorite moments. I already thought of one of them that I'd completely forgotten. Which was when Trump read Lindsey Graham's phone number aloud.
Oh yeah. Hey, but your book, In Trump We Trust, this is a great book about Trump. You've got to add 2 more chapters to it.
About the snowflakes. Oh wait, I was just making an important point and you distracted me.
Oh, Lindsey Graham.
No, it was RNC.
Yeah.
Reince Priebus paid, I think it was $12 million for the autopsy report. Remember the autopsy report?
Yeah.
So for $12 million, the Republicans came out with, they spent 6 months looking at it and decide we've got to push amnesty, start speaking Spanish, hire more Hispanics to be our spokesman. And then the guy who comes along and talks about Mexican rapists, the drug cartels, promises to build a wall, wins in a landslide. So I can't say Republicans were any more self-reflective. You know, these guys in Washington, they got to get out of Washington and meet some Americans.
Yeah.
They're lovely people. You should do it sometime.
You know, Trump said he based a lot of his thinking on talk radio, which was really the voice of the people. It wasn't filtered through any elitists.
Yes, well, as you know, I give a lot of speeches, and of course, I'd written Adios America, which, thank God, Donald Trump read. And, yeah, immigration is a really big issue. The strange thing about the immigration issue, and that is the one issue that completely set him apart from anyone else who has run for president in our lifetime, certainly, and even beyond that. But the thing about immigration is, which is why I only put it at 60% that Trump would win the presidency. Democrats could have already wrecked the country and changed it enough demographically that no Republican could win again, as in California. But with immigration, you're either it's either blissful ignorance or point of no return. So California, point of no return. The few remaining Americans who live in California realize that immigration is a really big problem. You know, I think Minnesota, that's imported, had the great idea. We're too white bread. I know, let's bring in 100,000 Somalis. They're discovering the problems with immigration. Poor Germany. I think they're discovering the problems with mass third world immigration these days. But by the time you know what the problems are, it's often too late. We were very lucky. God has given America one more chance, and oh boy, we better pray that Trump keeps his promises.
All right, well, everybody get Ann Coulter's book, In Trump We Trust. It's the Trump book, In Trump We Trust. Go to AnnCoulter.com. You can get the book, you can get the column and all that stuff there. And Ann Coulter, thanks for being with us.
You forgot to say, Mark Simone, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Holidays. It's Christmas.
It's Christmas. Hey.